Hey everybody, welcome to our End of Evangelion discussion analysis video. My name is David.
And my name is Dylan.
If you've watched the rest of our podcast called You Cannot Rewatch, then you're probably, kind of up to speed on what we're doing. Just in case you're jumping in now just to see the analysis of this movie, just to fill you in, we've done a podcast for the last, a long time actually. I guess about 26 weeks, where we talked about the show. We rewatched all of Neon Genesis Evangelion. We discussed it. We, gave our best analysis, even though it usually was pretty shitty. And now we're going to finally move on to the movie, which I've been really looking forward to.
Me too.
And also kind of dreading, because I don't really know totally what to say about the movie. We're going to talk about it today. So if you have watched our stuff last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago, when we did our discussion video on episodes 25 and 26 of the show, we talked a lot about the deeper stuff, the deeper elements of what's going on internally in Shinji's mind and Misato's mind, kind of why Shinji makes the decision he does. A lot of that stuff, a lot of that internal stuff. So we'll probably focus a little less on that in this. We're still going to focus on it because it's very important. But just to let you know, if we don't talk about that stuff as much and you want more of that, go watch last time's. But I don't think people do because nobody commented on that one. So I think people like the story elements more generally of the show, at least the people that watch our thing. Or maybe we just do such a good job of explaining the other parts that they don't need to comment.
Yeah, that's probably.
Let's go with that one. Anything to say before we get started jumping into the movie?
Nope.
I guess real quick, let's set up the movie a little bit. So,
okay.
And I am just deciding to do this now as I said that, so my knowledge is not prepped. But so the series ended at episode 26. That was the ending. That was it.
Right.
There wasn't, as far as I know, there was not a plan to make more. And I think, a lot of people were disappointed with what happened. And so later on it was announced, that they would have, I think they announced they would make 2 movies, and then Death and Rebirth came out, or maybe that was announced first. I don't know the exact order, but the fact is the series ended, and then the first thing to come out after it was Death and Rebirth, which was just a massive recap of the entire series with extra footage from the director's cut episodes, which hadn't been released yet and would later be released. That's why we kind of skipped Death and Rebirth. A lot of the extra shots that you see in there are added into the director's cut. Maybe all of the shots, actually. I'm not sure. So there's really no reason to watch that. But then finally, a while later, End of Evangelion came out. And I don't know the exact reaction, if fans were finally pleased with what they got. Or if,
yeah, I'm not sure about the reception at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I know kind of, how people feel about it now, I think. But at the time, I'm not really sure how people would have felt after, finishing the series and being like, what the fuck happened? And then they're like, oh, we're finally getting a real conclusion. Oh, what the fuck is this?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, the first time I watched the show, I actually, I thought episodes 25 and 26 were really good. But I also understood End of Evangelion was coming. And I fucking loved End of Evangelion.
Yeah, End of Evangelion's really good.
The first time I watched it, I definitely didn't get a lot of it. I'm still, there's still a few things I definitely don't get. But I loved it even the first time. I thought, if nothing else, I'm okay with mind fuck stuff. I'm okay with just crazy visuals that are set to good music, and it just delivered all over the board on those fronts. It was really dark, really mature, even more so than the rest of the series, and again, just really well directed visual stuff, and really heavy shit. So even though the first time I definitely didn't follow a lot of it, I still thought it was fucking awesome. Kind of like the first time I watched 2001: The Space Odyssey. You're not going to be able to walk away from that movie going, "Oh, I understand everything," but you're going to walk away from that movie going, "That was fucking cool."
Yeah, this is my second time watching it. I remember the same liking the first time, but this time was just man, this was so much better. Because especially after watching just rewatching the series again for the second time, and then reading up on it now because we're doing the podcast, and then watching Rebuild and stuff like that.
Yeah,
everything just made so much more sense. I felt almost like an idiot for being confused on anything before.
Yeah,
They
I had that
do
same
a pretty
reaction.
good job of explaining everything.
Yeah, I thought that way the first time I watched it, because the first time you watch Evangelion, for whatever reason, you really do forget a lot of the knowledge.
Yeah.
I think it's just because, there's a lot of stuff that it doesn't focus on, so you don't focus on it either, and then you go back and watch it. I've said this, I think, way back in, episode 1 of our podcast, but I'll never forget, I was a person who, I watched the entire series, and then the second I finished it, I started over. I didn't wait any period of time, because I heard that if you did that, even if you just watched it, and you watched it again, that it would be like watching a different show. So I was like, I want to test that out. So I finished the whole series, and then the next day started at episode 1. and I started episode 1, and then Shinji is on the phone, and he turns around and sees Rei, and that was something I didn't fucking know the first time. Like, I mean, I saw it the first time, obviously I watched it, but like I totally forgot about that. And then seeing that again after seeing everything in End of Eva was like, Rei appears in the fucking first few minutes. Mm-hmm. Like, that blew my mind. So that was when I knew, like, this rewatch is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Because, for whatever reason, you do kind of forget a lot of this stuff. So I think,
yeah.
Going through, I think Evangelion, the first time you watch it, pretty good. The second time you watch it, fucking incredible. Mm-hmm. So, I think if you're watching this, you already know that. But if you have any friends that are like, I didn't really like it, make them watch it again.
Yep.
And I think they'll get
I feel like the
a lot
only
more.
Still think I'm slightly hazy on the second impact. I'm still a little confused about what that is.
Yeah, some of there's actually a little bit they talk about in here that I kind of not noticed, so we'll get into that a little bit.
Cool.
But yeah, that's a little fishy. Well, also I'm totally because they don't ever explain it in the show. It's kind of just like you have to kind of figure it out yourself.
Like even some of the information they feed you early on too, you find out later on is like fake.
Well, yeah. Well, what I was gonna say though is what the thing that I'm even more fishy about is like first impact and like all of that.
Right,
like,
yeah.
I get the gist of it, but I don't totally understand like. So Adam and Lilith came to this planet, and they like all that stuff is like a little like because they never talk about that in the show really. Like they barely mention that.
Yeah, because I mean basically my only understanding of that is it's when they first came to this planet, and that's called first impact.
Yeah, and it also has to do with like the first ancestral race, which is the species that like sent these things out into the universe to seed other planets. But it's like. I get that. I understand that that's what happened, but where did that information come from? Like, did Anno say that in an interview? Like, everybody seems to know that. It's on every, like, wiki and forum or whatever, but, like, who said that?
Yeah.
Because that's not in the show, really. I mean, obviously there is a first impact because they call it second impact and third impact. And, like, there's certain things we can, like, kind of understand, but I wonder if, like, one person at one point was just, like, making shit up and everybody just believed it as popular theory. Because they really don't ever, talk about that in the show. It matches with that theory, but I've never thought about that. But if anybody knows kind of where the origins of that theory are, because everybody just talks about it like it's totally fact. We do, too. We have this whole show. But I don't actually know. But anyways, so... Now, I guess let's get into End of Evangelion. Remember when we said we didn't have anything to talk about before we talked about the movie?
I remember that.
And now we talked for like 5 minutes about other shit. But yeah, let's get into it. So, I forgot. Like, I remembered that this, the masturbation scene is like right at the, towards the beginning. I didn't remember that it was like the first fucking scene.
Yeah, that's like the only thing I remember about End of Evangelion before I watched it again.
Technically, it opens right up with like Shinji still kind of out on that like beach where he met Karu, but then it quickly cuts to Shinji in the hospital, and he does the masturbation thing.
Mm-hmm. He does that.
He does the masturbation. So yeah. First of all, I got a funny story about that. So I'm gonna throw a friend under the bus. I showed after I had watched the show a couple times. I showed it to my friend Michelle. And we watched the whole series together, but I didn't get to watch End of Evangelion with her. She watched it on her own. And I was talking to her about it, and I was like, oh, yeah, what'd you think of all, like, the crazy stuff? And she was like, I think I got it, but at the very beginning, when Shinji was in the hospital, what was that stuff on his hands? And I was just like, you got the whole fucking movie. You got Third Impact and Human Instrumentality the first time you watched it, but you couldn't figure out that Shinji had jizz on his hands?
Yep.
So, yeah, that always made me laugh. Also, that was an awkward conversation to have to explain that. I love that scene because, I mean, it's super fucked up. I mean, Shinji even says, I'm so fucked up. But what I like about it is, right away, like, they are not wasting any time pretending that this is going to be, edited for television and, like, all, censored and nice. Like, they're like, hey, everything that you thought you knew, all the restrictions about the show, it's out the fucking window. First scene, we're going to show Shinji fucking cum on his hand. Like, that's something you would have never seen in the series. And it's such a stark contrast from everything. Even though, again, the series was pretty dark, and there were some violent shots in it, when Toji's unit gets destroyed, when Unit 1 eats the angel. There's some, like, violent kind of stuff in there, but, like, they want you to know right away, like, we're not fucking around. Shit's going to get heavy in this movie, and it's going to get weird. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I like the opening. I just think it immediately just, like, shows you that. And it also, it's the kind of opening that, like, I think immediately puts a divide into the fan base of like, are you gonna like this movie or are you gonna be on the other side? Because like it's one of those scenes that you either are like, what the fuck, I want to see the rest of this movie, or you're like, turn this off. So yeah, I think it's a good scene in that respect. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say about that scene though.
No.
Although, except I always wonder what would have happened if like, cause Shinji like locks the door.
Yeah.
Like, how do they not ever come and check on these patients? I guess shit's pretty fucked at this point in the world. So
weird thing is, it looks like they have that place monitored by camera and everything else.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Later scene, they like literally check on Asuka.
Yeah, and throughout the series, I think they've like checked on Shinji and stuff by camera too. So when he's been in the hospital, yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I guess Shinji maybe wasn't aware of that, but
probably not.
That's interesting. Anyways, let's move on. We see a bunch of shots of like Seele and other people talking about instrumentality. Like Misato talks about it a little bit, and the nerve staff. They're talking about, what's this instrumentality thing? Oh, it's gonna happen, whatever. And they talk about they're gonna use Unit 1 instead of Lilith. So apparently, Third Impact was going to be triggered using Lilith, and somehow using the Lance. And I don't know exactly how that was gonna work because they do use Lilith, and I guess Gendo does at least. So I'm a little confused, like when they say like, oh, we can't use Lilith now, we'll have to use Unit 1. They use both, kind of.
Yeah,
so I don't totally understand, I guess, what Seilei's plan was versus what Gendo's plan was. I understand that either way it got triggered and like stuff, but I guess I don't understand what they were going for originally.
Were they wanting to use Unit 1 with Shinji in it? Obviously not, because they were going to kill him.
Well, I think Gendo wanted to use Unit 1 with Shinji, but I think Seele wanted to not use Unit 1 at all. So that's why they wanted to kill Shinji, because he was the only one at that point who could do anything in it.
Right.
Since the dummy plug had been rejected. So I think that's why Seele wanted to kill him, because I don't think Seele wants to use Unit 1 at all. They wanted to use Lilith. But that's why I'm confused. Like, if they wanted to use Lilith so bad, and they didn't want to use Unit 1, how come Gendo also wants to use Lilith? It kind of seems like... Because normally they're kind of, doing the opposite things, but Gendo kind of seems to have played into their hand after all.
Yeah.
To an extent. Anyways, so quick thing before we get into the big stuff. We see a shot of like Rei in her room, Rei 3, of course, and in an earlier episode we saw Rei 3 pick up Gendo's glasses and like try to crush them, but she couldn't because maybe she was having some like flashbacks of Rei 2 or something. So she puts the glasses down. But here we see she leaves her apartment and it cuts to the floor and Gendo's glasses are destroyed on the floor. Just a little symbolism for you guys, letting you know, Rei 3 has officially, decided fuck Gendo. Like she kind of had some hesitance about it, but now clearly she's not on the same page as him, which of course I just bring that up because that obviously plays into what happens later. Then we kind of go into the nerve takeover. First they start to take over the Magi system, right. And it's revealed. I don't think this was revealed anywhere else in the show. Maybe it was, but there's like a bunch of other Magi systems around the world. Had they ever talked about that before?
I want to say that I think they briefly did when one of the places blew up in America or wherever it was.
Oh yeah, that might be right.
I think they might
okay, yeah, that could be. But yeah, they talk about it more here, and they say, there's all these other Magi systems that are trying to take over our single one. And they managed to kind of, like, prevent it. They managed to slow it down enough so that they lock out the other stuff. But then they're like, that can't be the only attack. And then some kind of military force invades Seele Special Forces or some shit. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're called JSSDF. I know what that stands for.
Yeah, I don't know.
Japanese Defense Forces is what it stands for, actually.
Oh, okay.
Japanese Special Service Defense, something or another.
Okay. It doesn't matter. It's the military.
Nope.
The fucking military shows up. Who cares? Yeah. They were sent by Seele. Like, it doesn't matter what branch they are. There's a really dumb thing that's always bugged me. There's a shot, when the military is first invading, there's a shot of a nerve guard standing in front of all these, like, I don't know what those things are called. Those, like, the gateways that they enter to get into the building.
Yeah.
And he's just, like, standing there holding a gun. And he's kind of, like, his back is almost against the wall. There's probably, like, a foot or two between him and the wall. And you see one of the military guys, like, stand up behind him and then, like, shoot him or stab him or something. I don't remember. But, like,
stab.
Where the fuck did that guy come from?
Yeah. Well, the best part thing is then all the things open up, and then there's just a bunch of them behind the things, like, why did you kill this guy? You already got in. Like,
yeah, because it
You're
seemed like they
clearly
must have been on the
inside
inside.
already.
Because why would
Yeah.
he have been protecting? If the nerve guy was on the inside, why was he facing away from those entrances?
yeah.
So
And if he was on
nothing
the outside,
about that
why
shot
did you
makes
kill him?
sense.
Because obviously you were on the inside.
Yeah,
Like,
well, and also
everything-
just how the fuck did that guy? Because they cut to a wide shot before the thing's open, and there's no way that guy could have like crawled around on the floor and like got
No.
behind him. Also, at that point, why wouldn't you have just shot him?
Exactly.
Because that scene at first, because yeah, he does stab him. So at first it's just like, oh, they're gonna be sneaky, but then it immediately cuts to footage of them blowing the fuck out of everything.
Yeah.
So what was the point of like this elaborate stealth kill
I don't
for
know.
one dude that wasn't even a fucking threat?
It was just ease you into the chaos.
I guess, yeah, but they could have made it a little bit not dumb. Anyways, so they decide to shoot Unit 2 with Asuka back in it into a lake to keep her safe. Then Gendo asks Fuyutsuki if he could take over the command of the upper nerve war room shit, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And Fuyutsuki says, "Give my regards to Yui." Then the military kind of start to enter the main area of nerve where they talk to the pilots or whatever, and the nerve staff are like pulling out guns. They're like, "We're gonna have to fucking fight. It's kill or be killed or whatever." And then Gendo goes to Rei and tells her the time has come. Rei apparently came here to hang out naked in the tank.
Yeah.
Because I guess she likes being in there. Then we see that Shinji is like kind of off on his own, all feeling weird because he jerked off over a comatose girl.
As you would.
Aside from all the other things that have been going on with him, that definitely didn't help his psyche. So some people, the military come up and are trying to kill him again because Sele doesn't want him alive, but Misato comes in like a fucking badass. I always love the scene with Misato because Misato, it's kind of just like whatever throughout the show. Like she's really smart, in like her military tactical stuff with the other Avas, but you actually get to see her like run in and just fucking murder people.
Yeah.
And she like runs up and like puts
first
the
shot's
fucking
a headshot, dude. That's fucking awesome.
first shot's a headshot. Then she like pins that guy against the wall, puts a fucking gun right to his face, and it's just like nothing personal. And blows his fucking brains out a foot away from her. It's badass. It's action movie shit.
And then you have the worst sound effect ever used in animation history.
What is it?
You don't remember the sound effect?
Uh,
It's like a weird like splooching sound. Like it does not sound like what a brain coming out of a head would sound like at all.
Oh no, I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's bad.
I wasn't paying attention. I wonder if it's the same sound effect in the dub and the sub. Then
I don't know.
it probably is, but I wonder if maybe I missed it because it was different. I don't know.
Yeah.
We should talk about dub versus sub somewhere in here, by the way.
Okay.
But we can wait a bit.
Yeah, because I actually don't have subtitles for this, so I didn't
Okay,
need
cool.
the subtitle stuff. So
Because just if people didn't know, I watched the sub and Dylan watched the dub.
Yep.
So anyways, Misato rescues Shinji and they're kind of talking and Shinji's just saying like everything sucks, I want to die, and Misato's just like you could die later, you got to do shit, and then they launch the military or whatever launches an N2 mine which fucks up a lot of the geofronts. And then they talk a little bit about second impact at some point. I don't remember who talked about this. I should have wrote that down. Fuck, hang on. I'm trying to read here. Dylan, vamp for a minute.
So then some stuff happens and some more people blow up and they infiltrate Central Dogma or Terminal Dogma. Not Central Dogma. Those are different.
This must be what Misato says to Shinji, but I can't remember. I should have wrote it down. But anyways, she says something about, I think it's her, something about second impact was triggered to reduce the damage. So what that means, and I think they say it a little bit more clearly in there, and maybe this wasn't as clear in the dub because I don't remember. I've only ever watched the dub before this time, and I don't really remember this conversation. So either they kind of glazed over it in the dub, or I just didn't pay attention. But yeah, what they essentially say is like Adam was going to awaken anyways, and we triggered it prematurely so that it wouldn't be as devastating. So, I mean, it was pretty fucking devastating regardless, so I wonder what it would have been like if they wouldn't have triggered it. That's what I got out of that scene anyways. It sounds like, yeah.
Is it when she explained to Shinji, right?
I think so, yeah.
I remember her kind of talking about this, but I feel like I didn't pay attention as much as I should have when she was talking about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot to fucking take in End of Evangelion,
Yeah.
for sure. That's why it's easy to miss stuff. But yeah, so it sounds like that was kind of like the reasoning behind why all the people made Second Impact happen, so that it would reduce Adam to an embryonic state before the other angels awoke.
Because that's when she talks about how angels and humans are the same thing, and angels are just angels are just
the different potential possibilities.
Yeah, the ones that refuse to take the form that everybody else took.
Right. So, but yeah, they triggered Adam to be in an embryonic state because as the angels have been trying to do the whole show, if the angels reach Adam, they trigger the next impact.
Right.
So they triggered Second Impact early so that because otherwise Second Impact would have essentially been Third Impact, like it would have skipped. If the angels would have awoken and reached Adam before they triggered him to an embryonic state and hid him away, then the world would have been completely destroyed, just as we see here. But they managed to delay it until a Third Impact when all this happened. And that way they could control the impact rather than the angels being in control. Right. That's why they needed to build the Evangelions, to stop the angels. Whatever. So hopefully that explains it a little bit more. But then, Misato goes on to say, we are the 18th angel, which I've always been a little confused by what that means. Don't totally get that. But then she says, the other angels are just different possibilities of us. So essentially, Lilith and Adam, when they seeded the planet with either angels or Lilim or Lila, whatever the fuck, people, they're all kind of the same thing. They're all, different possibilities for what they could have been. And we are, just one of the possibilities. As a whole, humanity is one of the possibilities. Just like the angels, each of them individually is another possibility. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about that.
Yeah, that's how I got it. So.
I mean, I get that they say it, and I understand what they're saying, but it doesn't totally make sense to me because, you can tell me that those weird things are composed of the same stuff as a person, but one of them also lived in fucking lava and shit. Like, I don't know. And you could say, oh, well, they were just composed of more, I don't know, carbon, and it protected. Okay, but, no, that doesn't really work. Anyways, so they what else happened? So Asuka, okay, so we go to the military. They're like, hey, we know Asuka and Unit 2 are in that lake. We're gonna bomb the shit out of them. And so they start dropping all these bombs into the lake, and it kind of awakens Asuka and Unit 2. And Asuka just starts repeating, I don't want to die, over and over and over. And we hear her mother's voice, I believe her mother's voice, kind of talking to her and saying, kind of a range of things between I should have wrote down all the quotes. I ran out of room on my paper, but it's stuff like don't die, stay with me, die with me, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because I know Asuka just says I don't want to die, and then her mom just replies to something. It was so quiet I could barely hear it on mine.
Yeah. Sorry, I had a message. Yeah, but essentially, she realizes her mom is in the Evangelion and is trying to talk to her. And that, completely revitalizes her and also allows her... Hang on, I got a phone call. Everybody, hang out for a second. All right, sorry about that, guys. My mom called, and I had to wait for her because she put a taco in her mouth, she said. So that was fun.
All right, but based on Ava Geeks, what it says is her mom keeps repeating saying Asuka must live on, but then twice she pleads Asuka to die with her.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to say, at first I thought it was kind of positive stuff, but then it kind of takes a little turn.
Yeah.
But either way, Asuka, is able to resynchronize with her Ava, more powerful than she ever has been. And, it fully awakens, and it comes out. I always see this GIF everywhere of Unit 2 popping out of the water and, pushing up the ship and, it breaking. I don't know why everybody posts that one everywhere. It's a cool GIF, but, I always see that one everywhere. But anyways, yeah, so Unit 2 is a badass now, and it starts kicking ass left and right. For a while here, a lot of people get to be a badass in this movie.
They do, yeah.
It doesn't last long for anybody, and it doesn't end well for anybody, but most people get their moment. So as she's kicking more ass, we see that the mass-produced Avas have been completed, and they arrive, and they kind of begin to fight with Asuka. And then this is a little tough to talk about because it kind of cuts rapidly back and forth between the fight with them and all this other stuff. So I think we'll wait to talk about the fight with them till we actually can talk about the whole thing, including the ending.
Okay.
So we cut back to Shinji and Misato, and they're running. She'll trying to escape from, or get Shinji to Unit 1, really, and escape from all the soldiers. Misato gets shot. Then they kind of have, like, a real, like, kind of grown-up talk about, like, it's a really heavy talk, and I didn't write down a lot of quotes from it, but, it's essentially Misato telling Shinji, like, you have to be an adult now. Like, you can't expect to just not be hurt and just go through life not dealing with your problems. Like, sometimes you just have to own up to your responsibility and move forward. It's essentially that kind of talk.
She basically says, like, you constantly want yourself to feel pain because if you feel pain, you think it'll save other people from feeling the pain. Like, you're trying to take it on yourself kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's sort of like that.
And, she even kind of admits some of her own fault. Like, I've made a lot of mistakes too, but through every mistake, like, I learned more about myself and kind of grew as a person. But either way, like, I kept going. Like, I didn't, stop. And, because Shinji is, of course, just, literally, like, laying on the floor. Like, she had to drag him here. Mm-hmm. So, like, even if you fuck up, like, as an adult, you have to continue to move forward.
Right.
So then, to really kind of... Why in my notes did I write down the word necklace?
Because he gives the...
Oh, okay. Yeah. But I spelled it wrong. That's why it was confusing me. I spelled necklace wrong, so I was looking at it like, why? Because I wrote these notes really fucking fast, so I didn't take the time to spell necklace right. But, yeah, that was throwing me off. Yeah, so she gives Shinji her necklace, her little cross. But then she kisses him. She gives him a grown-up kiss. And then she says, we'll do the rest when you come back. This just kind of goes back to what we talked about several episodes ago. I don't remember the episode 20-something, where Misato tries to, help Shinji out sexually. Because that's kind of the only way she knows, really, to how to, like, get close to somebody and comfort somebody. So, this is just her kind of, like, saying, she already kind of tried to give him a good talk. And this is her, like, hey, I'm not that great of a speaker, so I'm going to, like, reinforce it the only way I know how by offering to bang him when he comes back.
Yep.
Then Shinji leaves in the elevator, and she slumps to the floor. And, she kind of goes through and pseudo talks to people, like, just says, like, first she talks, I don't remember who she talks to first, but she talks to Pin Pin at one point and is like...
Yeah, she calls out Pin Pin.
Yeah, she's like, shouts out Pin Pin, shouts out Kaji. But then there's a big explosion, and obviously she dies. But before the explosion happens, we see a ray appear in front of her. And it's just for a split second.
Just interesting note, on AvaGeeks they have that ray listed as Messenger of Ray 3.
Messenger of Ray 3.
I've
Okay,
never heard that before.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either. Never.
AvaGeeks has been great to, like, look up as a tool during this.
Yeah, I leave for synopsis pretty much.
But my problem with it is they put a lot of terms on there that are just like, oh, this thing is called this, and then they don't tell you what that is.
Yeah.
So that would be great if they could maybe elaborate a little bit on some of that stuff. Like, oh, cool, that's the Messenger for Ray 3. Cool. What the fuck's that?
Yep.
But anyways, we see another one of these rays a little bit ahead that also appears by Ritsuko. I think that these rays are, these are the kind of rays that are always kind of referred to, I think, as the quantum rays.
Quantum rays, yeah.
And so the way I've always understood that is during Third Impact, when Ray, this is jumping ahead a bit, but fuck it. When Ray, fuses with Adam and Lilith, and Third Impact starts to happen and all the rays appear all over, they're almost like Grim Reapers. They're almost, there to bring you to, it's not death, I guess, so it's not really a Grim Reaper thing, but, like, they're there to, like, bring you to the next thing, bring you through Third Impact to the sea of LCL or whatever. And, they appear to everybody. And sometimes they appear as a different form. To some people they appear as Ritsuko or Yui, but they're all essentially Ray. And sometimes you even see them start as Ray but morph into another person. Well, the way I was... go ahead.
The thing I found interesting about, too, is when they transform, some of them are wearing the schoolgirl uniform you typically see Ray in.
Yeah.
The other ones are naked. So I don't know if that was just, like, an animation, like, quickly doing something, or if that was, like, done intentionally.
I don't know.
It's just weird.
But, yeah, the way I always took these is, like, during Third Impact, Ray, with, fusing with Lilith and everything, so I don't know if you want to call it Lilith or Adam or whatever, but I'm just going to call it Ray, becomes such a powerful... I mean, it becomes, a god, really, and kind of becomes unlodged from time. Time isn't really relevant to it, so it can kind of appear throughout all these other eras or whatever. And so, it kind of like we see it, at the beginning of the show when Shinji sees it, and it's because like these rays have gone, back through the show and have kind of like observed the events, because it's in like a continual timeline. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but the ray that we see here with like Misato, or the one we see later with Ritsuko, they are the same thing as like this quantum ray, but they have come early to bring them into the LCL, or the third impact or whatever. Because of course we see Misato in there later, we see Ritsuko in there later, when Shinji is going through his mind and everything, and maybe we just see the versions that exist in his mind. But I believe that they like came a little early to like move them forward quicker. I hope that makes some kind of sense. But anyways, we could talk a little bit more about that later, because that's actually more relevant later. Okay, where was I in my notes? So we see, there's a big explosion, so Misato is now out of the picture. Shinji goes down to Unit 1, and he sees that it's covered in bakelite. Is that what they called that stuff?
Yeah, that's what you call it, bakelite.
Don't know what that is. Is that like a thing?
Hold on.
Is it like an Evangelion thing, or is that like a real thing?
I think it's just an Evangelion thing. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. But anyways, Unit 1 is, there's no way to get it out. And so Shinji, again, is just like slumping to the floor like, I can't do anything. We cut back to Rei and Gendo, and we see that they are now at Lilith, and they're in front of Lilith, and Rei is still naked. Then we see Ritsuko is there, and she pulls a gun on Gendo, and she says that she has changed the Magi to self-destruct. And she, tries to push it, but Casper, the friendly mom, betrays Ritsuko, choosing to, support Gendo and not her daughter. Surprise. All three parts of the Magi have to agree. So the self-destruct doesn't work, and Gendo then pulls a gun on her, and this is something we should discuss, I guess. Very famous part here.
I want to hear what you, because I didn't look up much on this, so I don't know the theories or speculation behind it.
Right.
So.
I think I know what kind of the popular theory is. And so in case people don't know exactly what we're talking about, Gendo pulls a gun on Ritsuko, and he says,
"The truth is."
In the English dub he says, "The truth is," and in the Japanese, at least the subtitles I had, he says, "I truly," same thing essentially. But he says, "The truth is," and then he mouths something. We don't hear it, but he says something, and then he shoots her. Oh no! First she says, "You liar," and then he shoots her. There's a lot of debate over what he said.
Yeah.
Now, man, I should have looked this up too. I think I remember hearing a long time ago that there was supposed to be a line there, but it just got lost when they tried to overdub it, or put the line in, and it actually I might be making that up, but I swear I read a story once. Yeah, they actually had a line that was written, and they put it in there, but it messed up when they put it in, and they watched it and oh, that line didn't go through. Oh, that kind of works without the line in there. I might have made that up, but I swear that's true. But anyways, yeah, a lot of people debate, what did Gendo say to her there? I think from what I've heard, popular theory is he just says something like, "I did love you," or the whole time I did care about you, and I wasn't just using you, something to that effect. I don't like that.
I mean, he was doing all this stuff to get reunited with Yui, so I highly doubt that he truly loves someone else.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never seen that one. But that being said, I don't have really a theory on what he said. I mean, he might have. I don't know, because she said the thing that makes it tough is she responds with "you liar."
Yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of people said I did actually care about you, because then she's like, "No, you didn't, you liar." I think that's why people kind of think that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he said anything that was groundbreakingly revelatory.
If it's really just a matter of they accidentally forgot to put the overdub in there, I bet people are making this seem like it's way more important than it actually is. It could just be anything I didn't want to have to shoot you, liar. Just it could be anything as lame as that.
Yeah, I'm sure this is a thing because the internet works a million times faster than my mind does, and Evangelion's kind of been around for a while. There's got to be a YouTube video where somebody just did a montage of what Gendo might have said, and it's just goofy stuff
Yeah, sure.
the truth is I don't know. I didn't like the ending of Lost. Like it'd be really funny to just see like a bunch of like what Gendo might have said. It's just like goofy shit. If that's not done, we're gonna look that up. If that's not done, we're doing that, Dylan.
Done. Doing it.
Look forward to that coming soon, guys. Unless it already came by somebody else. So yeah, he shoots her. She falls backwards into the liquid LCL, whatever the fuck that is. And I lost my place in my notes, so I'm taking a long time to talk while I look. Okay, so Rei, again, I mentioned this earlier, but we see, as Ritsuko's falling backwards, she sees another Rei. I believe this one's in a schoolgirl uniform. Schoolgirl uniform. I can't talk today. And then, that happens. Then, now we cut to the Oscar fight. And again, we've been cutting back and forth between this, but we wanted a way to talk about it so we could talk about the whole thing instead of just parts of it. So this is probably my favorite fight in Evangelion.
Oh yeah, dude.
Just in general. It's super well animated. It looks fucking cool. It's badass. I mean, it's Asuka versus 9 other Evas, and she's just fucking murdering the shit out of them. So it's just like action movie cool. Like she's chopping fucking heads in half. She's like launching spikes into their faces, ripping them in half pretty much. Like it's fucking cool. But unfortunately for Asuka, doesn't end up well. As she's killing the last one, as she's defeated the last one, she's almost out of power because she got her umbilical cord severed. So she's almost out of power, and we see one of the like sword things that they're fighting with flies at her, and she blocks it with an AT field, but it morphs into a lance. Not the true Lance of Longinus, but it morphs into a pseudo lance, I guess.
Yeah. And
pierces her AT field, and also pierces her fucking skull.
Yep.
It's pretty fucking brutal.
It's really brutal.
And right as the power runs out, so Asuka's just trying to get her Eva to wake back up because she's still inside of it, of course, and the mass production units all start to revive. And I've always thought this scene. I'm sure a lot of people feel this way too. It reminds me so much of like vultures. Like their wings spread and they all start circling above her, and then they start swooping down and like picking at her Ava's corpse. And it's probably the most, I'd say definitely the most brutal scene in Evangelion. Like when Shinji kills Unit 4 or 5, whatever Toji was piloting, it's brutal. Like he punches its head and it fucking explodes. But this is like a whole nother level. It's so fucking visceral and like gory. But yeah, they just start fucking ripping her. I mean, people have seen it. You know what happens, but it's fucking crazy. And Asuka, kind of still refuses to give up. She's saying like she's raising her hand at them and just repeating, "I'll kill you, I'll kill you." And the Eva actually kind of starts to wake back up in a berserk mode, but it's not really gonna do it much good because it's kind of fucked.
Yeah.
And even we cut to the nerve staff, and they're like, Asuka just fucking gave up. Like it's worse that you're continuing to try. And then we see they start to throw down more of the lances into Eva Unit 2's body, and we actually see Asuka's arm split in half, which is pretty fucked up. Presumably, I don't think you can see one, but presumably Asuka, a Rei would have shown up for Asuka as well, especially since she pulls herself out of the third impact stuff later. So presumably she didn't actually, get ripped apart totally here.
Hopefully not, because that would be real brutal.
Yeah, but it's still like a fucking it's an emotional scene because I think this is a really important character, especially like the first time I watched it I probably didn't care, but like watching it the second time I realized I liked Asuka's character a lot. So it's a pretty fucking brutal scene for a character you like to get ripped the fuck apart.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because like really no one in this End of Evangelion really has a happy ending, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
I mean in a way. I mean not cool, but like impactful. I think because like all these characters you've been with the whole time all kind of get brutal ends for the most part.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, this is a movie where they're just left and right giving it to you.
Yeah.
Like, we've had a little bit of it in the show. Rei 2 died. Toji didn't die, but, I mean, come on, he pretty much died. Kaji, but, like, yeah, here they're just like, hey, everybody's gonna fucking die in this one.
Yep.
But anyways, so Unit 1 gets free, and Shinji launches up in Unit 1 to try to help Asuka. I think he's not aware of what's happening at the time. And when he launches, there's gigantic wings that launch with him, wings of light, similar to the ones Adam had during Second Impact. Then he sees what's left of Unit 2, and he screams, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the end of Evangelion.
Yep. How'd you like it?
So yeah, this is one of my favorite things ever. The fact that credits roll here.
Yeah, me too. That's really cool.
That is 100% my sense of humor. That is so fucking funny. Like, people have been waiting. I mean, just imagine this at the time. People have been waiting for this movie for years. They wanted the true ending to Evangelion. They've been fucking dying for it. They go to the theater. They sit there. It's all this action. They're like, fuck yeah, all the action I've been wanting. And then fucking credits roll at a huge cliffhanger. I can't imagine. I mean, people must have left the theater, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not like a 2-second credit thing. It's full fucking credits.
Yeah.
I'm sure people walked out of the theater thinking, I watched the whole movie. I guess I'll have to wait for the next one.
So, yeah.
Because, I mean, it's like a 3 or 4 minute credit sequence. That's fucking funny. You know, I think it's a little bit lost in our digital age because you can, like, look at the player and be like, oh, there's still another hour left in this.
Right.
But, I mean, that played in fucking theaters. What did people think?
I know. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me a lot of, like, Hideo Kojima, like, the humor he puts in Metal Gear. Like, you'll just be playing and all of a sudden, like, there'll be a game over screen. You're like, what the fuck? Did I die?
One of the things I want to believe is, I know it's not true because it's impossible, but this is, going a little bit too forward. The scene when you see people sitting in theater seats.
Yeah.
And they're like awkwardly clapping. I want to imagine that was Anno on stage filming them after they saw the credits of this, and then real quickly throws it in.
That would be awesome. But yeah, so full credits play out, and then of course it comes back after the credits, and it continues to go. But I just also want to say, I don't think there's ever been a movie that's done that ever. Like, I mean, why would you really? But like, yeah. I mean, a lot of movies have credits during the beginning, during the opening. But yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a movie that has done that. And what's cool about it too is then when you actually get to the end, it lets the ending. There's no credits that it goes into at the very end. It is just the last shot, black, and I think that's cool. Anyways, though, so when we come back, we see shit is actually going to kick off for Third Impact. Gendo is talking about the forbidden fusion of Adam and Lilith. He, of course, has Adam fused into his right hand. We see Ray's arm just fucking falls off. I don't really know why. I guess they say like she's losing her AT field. Mm-hmm. The barrier that holds. Essentially, they've kind of said it in the show before. People all have AT fields too, and it's basically just like I don't really know the words for it. It's the force that like keeps your soul intact or some shit, but it also kind of keeps your physical body intact as well. Something like that. I don't know. It almost sounds like midi-chlorian bullshit, to be honest. Yeah. But essentially, yeah, everybody has an AT field just like the Angels, and Ray 3's is now falling apart.
Yeah, I always think it's kind of like it's your soul, like a physical manifestation of like your soul.
Right. But it does seem to have to do with your bodies, because later on they say like everybody AT field is going away. We won't be able to maintain physical forms for much longer, and that's when the rays appear and they all burst into the goo. But Ray's arm falls off, and Gendo puts his hand into her breast and then moves it down, presumably to her vagina. Mm-hmm. This is kind of a weird scene. I don't totally get why. Like, I get it. He's got Adam in his hand. He's putting Adam into Ray so she can go into Lilith. I get that. I don't know why he's putting his hand onto her vagina. I don't know. Is that where Adam needs to go?
Maybe because there's a lot of womb symbolism. Maybe that's kind of like where.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong spot, and he's a little bit higher than I thought.
Yeah.
But it just seems weird because like we see her face when he moves his hand down, and there's like a weird little like reaction that doesn't seem like a you put your hand in my womb reaction. It almost seems like a your hand is in my fucking vagina reaction.
That's true.
But I don't know. But yeah. Anyways, Ray kind of betrays him and takes his hand, and wait, does that happen yet? Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, it does. Mm-hmm.
And so this is one part where it keeps like cutting back and forth between shit, so it's a little confusing. And also I wrote really fast and I can't read half my fucking notes. Okay, so we see a quick shot of the lance of Longinus on the moon, and it returns to Earth. Did I skip a part?
This is.
Oh no, I didn't. I didn't.
Okay.
It does. Like we could continue talking about the race scene, I guess, but it actually does cut to all this other stuff first, and then it comes back to Rey, and we see her take Gindo's hand, and she floats up towards Lilith, and says, "I'm home." And we just see black text, or just black screen with text on it that just says "Welcome home," which we've talked about before, but that's fucking cool. That's way better than giving Lilith a real voice.
Yeah.
Welcome home or whatever. Like, it'd be fucking lame. So it's really like stylistically cool to do it that way.
Yeah, I'm glad I knew what that said because I have a version that has Japanese text in the stuff,
but it doesn't translate it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I was like,
I've been there. Hopefully, if we get a fucking Blu-ray release, that won't happen. Of course, it sounds like the Blu-ray release is going to be like fucking $1 million.
Yeah, it's going to be real expensive.
So I'm not going to buy. I love Evangelion. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, but I'm not going to pay fucking $300 for 20 episodes.
I'm not going to pay the same amount I can get an iPad for a fucking anime.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I mean, if they did something like insane, like, oh, this doesn't just come with the show, it comes with the fucking Evangelion, then I'll be like, yeah, I'll pay a few $100. But like, it's fucking, and it's cartoons on discs.
Anime is just way too expensive on Blu-ray and stuff like that. I don't get it.
Yeah, sometimes it's not, but yeah, a lot of times it is, and I don't fucking understand. Like they just redid Cowboy Bebop, and it's not bad. It's like $40-$50.
That's an appropriate amount of
That's
price.
a great deal.
That's a Blu-ray price.
Yeah, but what the fuck? Because Evangelion shouldn't be multiple $100s.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks. Because I mean, how many years have we been looking forward to a release of that? How many years has everybody in the world been looking forward to a release of that?
Yeah.
And it's gonna be fucking so expensive that very few people can get it. So,
yeah.
Good job with your fan crowd pleasing there. Anyways, that was our rant on Evangelion Blu-rays.
How'd you like it?
So, we see, again, the Lance returns, and Unit 1 kind of starts getting put together into the Tree of Life or whatever. It gets crucified. We see the stigmata appear on Shinji as well as the unit because he's pretty fucking synced up with it right now. He's at the point where he can, also sustain the injuries that his unit does.
Mm-hmm.
The Tree of Life is formed with all the mass-produced Evas. Third Impact starts, really. We see a giant eye kind of appear on the planet, on Earth. And then it kind of opens up into the Black Moon, the egg of Lilith, which is just essentially, the big area. Like, it's essentially like Central Dogma, like where Lilith has been being kept. The only thing I'm a little confused by is we see it. Like, they show you the Black Moon, which was under, all of Nerve HQ and kind of where the Geofront was or whatever. Or maybe it is like the whole Geofront. I don't totally understand it. My only point is, like, we keep cutting back to the Nerve staff. Where the fuck are they in a physical space right now?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Because that whole area is just, like, gone now, and the only thing left is just a massive hole with a big black egg in it. Where is the Nerve staff at? Are they in the egg?
They explained themselves that it was just a shockwave. If they absorb the shock, they'll be fine. So I don't know if that was like their half-assed way of explaining.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never quite understood where they were in a physical space. But anyways, so this is actually where Rey says to Gendo, "I'm not a puppet," and she takes his hand. After we've seen all that other shit happen. Hang on, let me turn my page. Then the "I'm home, welcome home," and they kind of fuse together. We see Lilith awaken. Its mask falls off, and it kind of morphs into Rey. The Nerve staff up above say, we've got something down below. It's pattern blue. They're like, it's an angel? No, it's a human, which is interesting. Interesting line because I don't totally know how it's a human. Anyways,
well, I guess if it's Lilith, isn't Lilith like the mother of humans? So it's kind of like, if we're from her, she kind of have the same pattern as us.
That's true, but it's also Adam is fused in there as well, and Rey, which is made from Lilith.
Well, I guess maybe that kind of explains why they're like, oh, it's an angel. No, it's a human. Where it's kind of like...
I guess. They don't quite know what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's a giant fucking Rey, and it appears way up above, and we see Shinji sees it, and he fucking freaks out, which, understandable.
Very understandable.
Then we see Sele talking about through the destruction of the ego of Unit 1's pilot, humanity should now be completed. So essentially, now they do need Shinji, I guess. I don't fucking know. They ordered Shinji to be killed earlier. They ordered the soldiers to kill Shinji, but now they need him and they need his mind destroyed. Motivationally, I'm a little confused. Like, I understand how Third Impact happens for the most part, but like, I don't understand what Sele was trying to do. It seems like they're happy with what happened, but they ordered Shinji. They ordered all the pilots to be killed. Did they order them to be killed, knowing that Misato would save them, knowing that like how what the fuck?
I'm wondering if they just for some reason thought they could have possibly used Unit 1 without a pilot in it. Because I know they want to use a dummy plug, but they know the dummy plug gets rejected by Unit 1, so I don't know what their plan was.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyways, now forget anything you knew now. Now their goal is we got to destroy Shinji's mind.
Yep.
So the mass-produced units all officially merged with all of this shit into the Tree of Life. They all kind of take the face of Rei as well, which is weird. Unit 1's core is exposed. Then, because Shinji's still freaking out about the giant Rei, so it switches to Karu's face, which kind of comforts him. Mm-hmm. Then the Lance of Longinus pierces Unit 1's core. They say the angels have the fruit of life and man has the fruit of knowledge.
Yep.
Just, in general, the angels have always had the fruit of life and man has always had the fruit of knowledge, which is why man can create the Avas and like be so scientifically advanced, and why the angels can they essentially have S2 engines, like they could live forever provided they weren't murdered by Evangelions. I think that's kind of what they mean. But now both of those things are owned by Unit 1.
Yeah.
And now it becomes God. The Tree of Life is officially completed, and they say, now the fate of humanity, whether we'll be saved or whether we'll be destroyed, is up to Shinji, essentially. And that's where shit really starts to break apart. We cut to what apparently is known as the sandbox scene, as you were telling me.
Oh yeah. Shit.
But it's sort of like a big playground kind of area. There's a swing set. It's weird though, because there's a sandbox that Shinji is in, but there's also like kind of lights set up and like a stage.
Yeah.
That it seems like almost like I don't know. It's weird.
I think that's kind of just symbolizing like he's being watched while he's trying to decide what to do. Yeah.
But we see for a second he's actually there with Rei and Osku dolls, which is they look fucking freaky too.
Creepy.
But Shinji builds up a little sand pyramid, which kind of looks like the pyramid where Nerve was. And then when everybody leaves the stage and nobody's around, he stomps it, and then he starts to slowly rebuild it. So that is the sandbox scene. Dylan, what is the sandbox scene?
I mean, that's pretty much exactly what I was gonna say. That's the analyst I read is pretty much the same, except like Oscar and Rei are like helping him rebuild and build together like the sandbox, what that's supposed to be.
Oh, okay.
And then when they leave and he starts feeling alone and like all by himself, because the mother's supposed to be Misato, who takes him away.
Okay.
So when he's left and kind of on his own, he's feeling like, that's when he starts getting angry and wants to destroy it because, he just feels like no one cares about him anymore. Everybody's kind of leaving him behind, which is kind of how he's feeling towards the end before all this is kind of happening.
Yeah,
that's
that makes sense.
Essentially what I kind of got out of it. Of course, the symbolism, like, the playground's supposed to be like a mother's womb because you have like the two hills in the background and then like.
Oh yeah, I have heard that.
Yeah, I've heard that before too.
But yeah, I mean, essentially, Shinji all of his behavior is for others.
Yeah.
So when people are around, he's doing what he's supposed to. But when they leave, he fucking wants to wreck shop.
And the interesting thing is, like, one of the only few dialogues I have in here is the narration of Shinji saying, "It's just like when I started to play the cello."
Oh yeah.
And I thought if I came here, I could find something. Yeah, the cello is kind of, I think, basically what I got it is kind of like the symbolism of him piloting the Avas. Because he tells Asuka he only started playing the cello because
he was told to.
Because he was told to, and he never stopped because no one ever told him to.
Right.
Which is pretty much the same thing with Ava pilot. He pilots Ava because he's told to. And that's pretty much why he does that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of everything in his life, really.
Exactly everything in his life. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I can get from this. It really just, I mean, I think for the most part, it's kind of self-explanatory on the surface.
Yeah, I suppose so.
The only other thing would be the swing, and I mean, the only thing I read from the swing is like it's supposed to be like a passing of time, I guess, a symbolism of time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think that really unravels the mysteries of Ava, but
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely there's definitely meant to be some more like symbolism to the scene.
Yeah, definitely. That's like,
and I think you could spend a lot more time like reading into it. I don't know if you're going to get that much more if you do.
Exactly, because I mean, basically, if you just know, it's symbolizes like a mother's womb, which is like, in case you haven't noticed by now, it's a very recurring theme through the past few minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the real point, because it's kind of just like humanity being reborn, basically. And this is like Shinji in the womb, kind of shaping what that humanity might be.
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially at this point, yeah, Shinji is, everything is kind of starting to lose its physical form.
Yeah.
And it's going off the rails at this point.
Pretty much.
So Shinji starts to see a bunch of like flashes of mostly sexual kind of imagery.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the girls in his life that he's been sexually attracted to, talking to him. He sees like shots of when he almost saw people naked or whatever. I mean, this is just, again, self-explanatory, straightforward. Like, Shinji, he's fucking 14, maybe 15 by this point, I don't know. But, he's a 14-year-old boy. He's, about peak horniness level. And, he's not too long probably into really noticing girls in that way and feeling sexual attraction. I mean, the movie started out with him jerking off.
Yeah.
He's definitely having a lot of those thoughts. So, this is just a lot more of that imagery, like him seeing more of that, which, is confusing to him. And he, has that attraction to other people, but everything is so complicated for him in his life, and everything is so complicated for the people he's sexually attracted to. I mean, one of them is fucking twice his age. One of them is constantly a bitch to him, and one of them is a doll. So he doesn't really have an outlet for any of that, aside from, like, jerking off to him when they're asleep. But then where do we go to? We kind of see a little bit of the scene where Asuka and Shinji first kissed. This is the scene we see in this movie is very reminiscent of the scene. They're wearing the same clothes. It's the same kind of room. It's the same kind of lighting, everything. But it doesn't go so well this time. So Asuka and Shinji are kind of arguing over things instead of making out. And Shinji is asking Asuka for help, and he's kind of been asking Asuka for help the whole movie. I guess we hadn't brought that up yet. It's a little strange that he's kind of turning to Asuka.
Yeah.
Because he's never, I don't know, it just seems like the weird one out of the group to ask for help. I guess he doesn't feel, he may kind of realize like Ray 3 isn't Ray 2, or I don't know if he totally understands that, but he may kind of feel like I can't really talk to that. And Misato, like, for one thing, she tried to bang him, and he doesn't really know how to feel about that. And
yeah, I feel like Misato would give him an adult of being like, you're a kid and it'll make sense later. I mean, you can't really get much emotional comfort from Ray, even Ray 2, really.
Right. So I guess Asuka is kind of his only source to turn to. And I think also, like, he may just be turning to her because this is going to be hard to make sense. He might be looking to Asuka for help because she can't help him.
Right.
And what I mean is, like, Shinji wants help, but he's not going to actually ask somebody for help. Like, if he asks Misato for help, you're right. She's just going to say all the stuff that he doesn't want to hear. He wants to talk to somebody that can tell him exactly what he wants to hear, which is nobody. Nobody can tell him exactly what he wants to hear. Yeah. So with Asuka, now she's in a coma or whatever, so he's feeling like he wants help from her because she actually can't help him, and in a way, that's what he wants. Right. He wants the idea of looking for help, but he can't actually deal with any of the real implications of getting help. I guess that's kind of how I take it. But anyways, we see here he's asking her again for help, but actually directly this time. But of course, it's also a falsehood. It's not really asking her. But she says, you're all you have, and you never even learn to love yourself or to like yourself. I guess same thing. But then she gets up and pushes him down onto the floor, and some coffee spills on him, which probably hurt.
That probably hurt.
He stands up, chokes her, lifts her up off the ground. Pretty strong, apparently, Shinji, especially because he's like 3 feet away from her when he chokes her. I don't know. Hey, that shot looks really cool, like visually from a directorial perspective, but you couldn't pick somebody up like that.
No. Like,
his arms are fully out, and he like lifts up her entire body weight. That you couldn't do that. But anyways,
he's God now, though. He can do anything.
That's true. That's true. This is his little fantasy world. But essentially, this is Shinji deciding, like, I'm not gonna deal with my problems. I'm just gonna say fuck everybody. And this is when I think I'm pronouncing this right. Kam Susser Todd plays.
The song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what that's called.
It starts as he's choking her, and that song just fucking is awesome. We've talked about it before in the show. We're both huge fans of like kind of weird, off-putting music set to like kind of scenes that are just like not, I don't know, they just don't really mesh up, but like in a way they mesh up even better. And this is like the ultimate of that. Like this song playing with everything that's fucking going down is the best. This is when I knew I loved End of Evangelion, watching it for the first time. I didn't totally understand what I was looking at. This is the scene I think where a lot of people go like, "What the fuck did I just watch?" Like, that reaction I think is during this scene. But to me, the first time I watched it, I was just so impressed with how well the music was fitting with the animation and like the visual imagery. Like, I think you just have to appreciate this scene on that level if nothing else. Definitely. It's such a well edited and directed scene. I would say maybe the best in the show in that respect, as far as being well put together. But anyways, then we start to really break things apart. We see tons of flashes of like the child drawings that we've seen a little bit of before in like 25 and 26. We see a quick flash of like every episode title, which is interesting. Shinji, actually says nobody wants me, so they can all just die. I forgot to mention, but they've mentioned a couple times throughout this that the Tree of Life, all the units are producing a massive anti-AT field.
Yeah.
And what that's doing is making it so that any being with an AT field, all of people, can no longer support their AT field because the anti-AT field is so powerful. So they're actually losing their physical forms. So all the rays start appearing to everybody. And most of the rays are kind of comforting. Some of them are a little bit more scary. Some of them are a mix of both. But they kind of start, turning people into goo or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, primordial soup is what I think they refer to.
They refer to it as several different things because, it's the same thing as the LCL we've been seeing through the whole show. I think it's supposed to be like the same stuff because, that's like the blood of Lilith essentially. And,
right.
We are born from Lilith, so we're born from the LCL. It is the primordial soup. So it's kind of all the same thing. I've never quite known like which term to use to refer to it as.
And this is its mentality that Sele wants, right? This is the third.
I believe so. Yeah, okay. Sele definitely seems happy about it.
They want all of us to be like one big thing, right?
Yeah, that was their goal to turn to trigger the next step of evolution, which is technically the first step of evolution.
Yeah.
But they say the beginning is the end. They are the same. Also, Fuyutsuki mentions the door of Guff is open. Mm-hmm. That's another one of those things. I don't know what the fuck that means.
The best way I get what the Guff is on Rebuild 2.22 whatever. It's the big thing that opens up above Shinji.
Right. They do mention it, I think, in 3 as well. I think Karu mentions it.
Yeah. I don't know what it is exactly. That's how I always visualize it.
Yeah, I want to say that is I want to say that's a term from the Bible as well. Because they use a lot of terms from that.
Yeah.
But I don't know for sure. I don't know if it's anything that important, to be honest. It's just a cool term, I guess.
Yeah.
So we see a scene with Gendo. I think probably the coolest scene with Gendo in the whole series because it changes the way you look at the character. The first time you watch the show, Gendo's totally just this huge asshole, shitty person. And this is the scene where it's like, oh shit, there's a little more to Gendo the whole time than we thought.
Yeah.
So we see Gendo, now literally disarmed, and he's laying down, waiting for Yui, and Yui appears to him. I wouldn't say it's the true Yui. It's Rei, I think, in the form of Yui or Lilith or whatever the fuck. They say he says, "I've always caused Shinji pain. That's why I avoided him. Because to be with him caused him pain, so it was better to push him away and be away from him. He ran away to avoid being hurt himself as well. What's so interesting about this is you realize he's literally Shinji.
Yeah. Like,
he ran away from all his problems so that he wouldn't get hurt. Gendo is what Shinji would become if Shinji stayed on the path.
Yeah.
That he's been on. Not dealing with your problems, Of course, Gendo, is a little different because, he had this whole mastermind plan going on, and Shinji didn't. But, in terms of, how they reacted to stress, they are the same person.
Another thing I found interesting about this is it makes sense that Rei's there. It makes sense that Yui's there. Why is Kaworu there? Or whatever his name is.
I don't know why Gendo in particular would see Kaoru.
I feel like he had no specific connection with that character whatsoever.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. They just wanted to use him again. They wanted to give that voice actor a few more bucks.
His voice is much better in this, though.
Yes. But anyways, so yeah, that's kind of the end of... Oh, yeah. I almost fucking forgot this. So we actually see... this... I'm a little confused on this because Unit 1 is obviously up in the Tree of Life, but we see Unit 1 appear very reminiscent... Maybe this is why they show Kaoru. It's very reminiscent of the scene when Unit 1 is holding Kaoru in its hand. But now it fucking bites off Gendo's head. And we actually see Gendo standing up there without a head. And then we see the three Rays, Ray 1, Ray 2, and Ray 3, kind of staring at him. This is a lot of stuff that I don't totally have an explanation for. I don't know. I guess Gendo says that this was his retribution. This is kind of like, after everything he'd done, this is kind of what happens to him. It makes me wonder, because we don't see Gendo turn into the goo or whatever. We see him, beheaded. So it makes me wonder if, like, was Gendo not allowed to move to the next state with everybody?
Oh, that's what I'm wondering. Like, that was his... It seems... I don't know. Maybe he wasn't allowed to move over it, or instead of being comforted going in there, he was, like... had to go through that horror, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe. But it's just weird because, like, every other character, we actually see them turn into the goo.
Right.
And we don't with him. We just see him standing there without a fucking head. So I've never thought about that either, but I wonder if that's what that means, is like he doesn't get to move on.
Yeah.
Because I think when we actually go and like we're seeing all the imagery in Shinji's head and he's trying to make the decision, I don't really know if he sees Gendo during that.
I don't think so.
I don't know. It's interesting.
One more quick thing. I looked up the Chamber of Guff and what it means.
Okay.
So it stands for the Treasury of Souls in Hebrew mythology. And just a real quick thing, according to Jewish mythology, in the Garden of Eden there is a tree of life, or the tree of souls, that blossoms and produces new souls, which fall into the guff, or the treasury of souls. Then an angel reaches out and takes the first soul that comes in the hand, and then watch over it till it's born again, or something like that.
Okay.
So basically it just seems like that's where all the souls go, is going to the guff.
Okay.
So I guess that makes sense.
Sure. So we see a bunch of we see the planet Earth. There's a massive wave of lights that kind of starts to take over. As everybody is being turned into the primordial soup or whatever. We see kind of all the souls kind of funneling towards the egg, the black egg. There's a bunch more like crazy flashes of shit. Again, we're not going to go too much into like what every imagery that flashes by is, because we kind of talked a lot about what all that stuff meant for the characters in 25 and 26 in our discussion about that. But there's a fuck, I don't know. So we go to the movie theater. We see a movie theater in the movie, which I imagine was meant to freak people out when they were watching this in the theater for the first time. And then we started seeing like live action shots of the real world, just like streets and street lights and shit like that. And then we see the theater now filled with people. We hear, I believe, Yui saying you were using fantasy to escape reality. I wanted to bring that line up in particular because there's actually a couple lines with that too, but I just wrote down that one in particular. They're basically talking about how, like, you made up this whole, rather than dealing with all the problems and the things you felt wrong with your life, you made up this whole fantasy scenario to not deal with the reality. And I really feel like that is Anno, like, that Anno wrote that, directed it himself.
Yeah.
Like, he was going through a ton of depression and issues when he made Evangelion. I almost feel like, that's him saying, like, rather than dealing with all those problems, you made a show about people with problems. I don't know. I felt like that was the line he almost directed at himself.
Yeah.
Like calling himself out. Might not be, but then we see I believe these are the Japanese voice actors of the three main characters, Asuka, Rei, and Misato, right? That we see standing in the street, and then we actually see them like in their costumes.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Then they say anywhere can be paradise as long as you have the will to live. I believe Yui says that as well, or the voice actor for Yui or whatever. Basically, just saying like, really, most things are your perspective. Any situation can be bad or can be good. A place that you live in can be great or it can be shitty, and it kind of depends on your outlook on it. Which I think is pretty true. I mean, if you're in like a fucking death camp, I think it'd be pretty hard to think it's paradise.
That's true.
But essentially what they're meaning is like all the day-to-day problems that you get hung up on, they don't have to be problems really. Like, like you don't have to like let them ruin your life. Anywhere can be paradise as long as you want to live and move forward. So then we see a bunch of like there's like hate and also like fan mail that gets put up on screen, which is kind of interesting. Then this is where Shinji's kind of starting to reject instrumentality. We see Rei, the gigantic Rei, its neck like bursts and blood starts pouring out, and sprays onto the moon. We get a talk between Rei and Shinji where Rei is kind of fused in with Shinji, and they're saying like, people no longer have individual forms. Like you don't know now where one person ends and one begins. So they're now in the soup, whatever. And Rei says like, this is what you wished for, and Shinji kind of realizes like, this isn't really what I wanted. Like, everybody being together doesn't solve all the problems. Like, I needed to solve all the problems. And that's important too. I think a lot of people, we kind of mentioned this in 25 and 26. Like, third impact obviously is something that you're not going to go through in your life. You're not going to go through turning into goo and like being in a gigantic robot that does shit. Like, but the idea of creating kind of a false way of reality, I think that's something very real that people can do. Yeah. I think that's kind of what this is meant to represent. Like, not running away from reality, not facing the truths and the things that you have to face, is almost like creating your own third impact, and you won't be happy there. Like, you can work to take away all of the things that are bad in your life by hiding from them, or by moving away, or going to another country, or staying away from people, staying in your room all the time, or whatever. But like, that doesn't solve your problems. Just because they're not in front of you doesn't mean that they're solved. Like, it's better to live in a normal life and accept the good and bad and deal with the good and bad than to try to create an alternate way of living that loses all of that. That's kind of the message here, and I'm sure it's pretty clear already, but there you go. There's my analysis of it.
I mean, that's totally what I would say too. I mean, he even, like, we're getting ready to talk about that, he even realizes that he actually misses them and is never going to see them again in this type of way. Exactly.
Like, if you shut yourself off from everybody, you won't be hurt by them, but you won't be loved by them either. Like, you'll get nothing. There will be nothing. It will be a space of nothingness, which is what Shinji is currently dealing with. Like, even though everybody is there with him in Third Impact, nobody is there because nobody is a person. Nobody is an individual. So it's not any better than it was. It's worse. So Shinji, decides, like, I don't want this. I want people to be back. So we see Unit 1 burst out of Rei's eye, which is fucking nasty looking. Then we see the black egg, like, bloody lines start appearing on it. I wanted to bring this up. I want to talk a little spoiler here.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. This is a little spoiler for the rebuilds. In 3.0... And it's been a while since I watched End of Evangelion, and apparently I have not watched End of Evangelion since I watched 3.0. But in End of Evangelion, there's a part where Karu takes Shinji down to like the old destroyed parts, and we see all these like big monsters, figures, and stuff. And there's a giant fucking like mouth in the ground with teeth, and there's also like a giant sphere that looks like a mini moon or a planet that's covered in lines. That's one of the fucking eggs.
Right.
I didn't fucking realize that. I never knew that. But I remember it not being black, so I wonder if it's supposed to be Adam's egg, because Adam was the white egg, and Lilith was the black egg. So,
and I feel like that's one of those things, too, that's like, either that's kind of how instrumentality happened all over again on that place in a way, or not instrumentality, but that's kind of how things happened again, I guess.
Yeah.
Or if that's a really good evidence for this is kind of like almost a continued
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, but yeah, because it seems like the same lines, so it's interesting. I'm sure everybody else like already knew that, and I'm not saying anything crazy.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna
like,
say, I knew that.
I didn't fucking catch that at all. Like, I did not know what that sphere was, and then I watched this and was like, oh shit. Um, but anyways, so Ray completely like starts breaking apart. Then we see, I believe Yui says, as long as the sun, the moon, the earth exist, everything will be all right. So, like, yeah, bad shit's going to happen in your life, but, like, as long as you're alive, as long as the earth is still here and you're still on it and the sun hasn't fucking supernovaed, it's going to be all right. Like, you can get through it. What does that say on my note? Something. Oh, okay. So they say that this is Yui again, and she's saying, like, in the Ava can live forever. Like, a soul fused with the Ava can live forever. We see Unit 1, like, floating through space at the end. And, Yui, we see that Yui's goal, basically, what she really wanted was to be immortalized. Because even once the planet's gone, Yui even says there, as long as the sun, moon, and earth exist, whatever. But, like, what she's saying is, like, all that stuff will fall. People will fall. We will all die. But if I can fuse with Unit 1, like, that will be a trace that humans once existed.
Yeah.
So we really see that that's kind of what Yui was up to the whole time. Like, she wanted to be fused with Unit 1 so that, like, in a billion years, her soul would still live and it would show that we had still lived. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting. Then we go to the very famous scene in Evangelion. I would say maybe, as far as, like, imagery goes, like, what I see is, like, when I see people post images online, this is probably the most famous scene, the beach scene at the end.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I see a ton of, like, posters and, like, people recreating this image. I think this might be the most famous shot out of the entire series. But so we see Shinji lying on the beach. The mass-produced Avas, their bodies are kind of, like, in the water nearby. We see the gigantic half of Ray's head, like, out in the sea. The sea is, like, kind of orangey reddish. Mm-hmm. Visually it's a very striking shot. Definitely one of those Kubrick shots. But we see Shinji kind of wakes up and he looks over and for a second he sees another one of the rays, the quantum rays, whatever you want to call them, standing out in the water, but then it disappears. Then we see Asuka appear next to him and he chokes her again like he did earlier in his fantasy. Do you remember, Dylan, a long time ago somebody asked us, and we actually addressed this a long time ago, even though it was spoilery, somebody asked, why did Shinji choke Asuka at this scene?
Yeah.
Do you remember what we said?
Do you not? I kind of remember.
I don't really.
I
think we pretty much said that, like,
it was across the lines of, like, he'd been in, because you don't know how long Shinji's been here by himself.
Yeah.
And then all
true.
of a sudden he sees Rei. It's like, what the hell? And then he sees Asuka. So it's almost to the point of, like, he doesn't believe she's actually there.
That could be, yeah. I want to say what I said was more like, even though Shinji just came out of this and decided he did want to see people again, he's not fucking, like, cured. He's not, like, fucking, zippity-doo-dah now. He's still fucking depressed and wrecked inside. And I think, a lot of the frustration that he felt during everything is all just still pent up. And, I mean, the last time he saw Asuka, in his mind, was when he was fucking choking her to death. And now he sees her again, and I think, that's just some of his leftover frustration.
Right, yeah.
And also, I think he's very, like, deeply ashamed and embarrassed about what he did to Asuka. So it's almost better to, like, do this than to, like, deal with it. In a way. I think it's just, like, all of his frustrations still, like, everything that he felt now funneled into one person. But Asuka wakes up, and instead of yelling at him or anything, she reaches up and gently caresses his cheek, and he stops and starts crying. And then she looks at him and says, "How disgusting."
Yeah.
And I think, we've kind of talked about this before. But it's a good scene.
It's a really good scene.
It's a cool scene.
Line. Really good line to end the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the end. I mean, that line is the end of Evangelion. And that's why I love that there's no credits, too. It's just, how disgusting.
Yep. There's one thing. This is a really, really brief rant. On Ava Geeks, instead of saying "how disgusting," they have the Japanese word for it. Just write it in English, please.
They just have the Japanese. They don't say this is Japanese and here's the English.
Before saying "quote unquote" kimochi waru, I think that's how you say it. It's like, just say the definition of that, please? Just translate that. There's no point in not.
But yeah, I mean that's Evangelion, guys.
What's it?
I wanted to say real quick, we've kind of talked about a lot towards the end here, though Evangelion, and this happened in 25 and 26 too, with Shinji like coming out of Third Impact and all the congratulations stuff. But really, I think at the end of Evangelion, despite how negative a lot of things go, like the message is very positive at the end. It's saying like, you can't, kind of what we talked about, like you can't run away from your problems. You have to deal with your things, and like things aren't as bad as you're making them in your mind. I hear a lot of people. We've even had people, comment. I won't mention who because I don't know if they would want me to, but we've had people like message us and comment and say like, Evangelion just showed that like got me out of my depression and stuff like that. And I think that's what happened with Anno too. Like it's a very powerful show for that because I mean Anno really I think because from the way I understand it, and I haven't read a ton about it, he was like super wrecked working on this show, especially towards the end, which is why it gets so like fucking mind fucky. But he's still alive now and doing a lot of stuff. So I always got the impression that like working on the show was a great source for him of like getting through all of that.
Yeah.
Maybe he still has a lot of that. He probably has some of it. I'm sure. Like some of that you can't totally ever get rid of if you really suffer from it. But I think a lot of people do really find the show really powerful in that respect. And so I think that's cool. A lot of people just like the show because it's like an interesting story about robots and stuff. And I think a lot of people that watch our thing are just interested in that stuff. So I don't know how interested you're going to be in all of our like philosophical discussion about it. But I think a lot of people get different stuff out of the show, and I just think it's cool that like. Yeah, I just think it's cool that like people can get all of those messages. Yeah, I don't know.
It's cool.
What else? What else? Is that it?
Do you want to remind people about the recap?
Yeah, sure. So we're gonna be doing a series recap. If you haven't watched our stuff, we're doing a special edition podcast where some of the people who have listened in with us and talked to us. As well as ourselves, are going to be discussing the series as a whole. All of the show, all 26 episodes, as well as End of Evangelion. We're not really going to go into the rebuild stuff. Maybe a little bit of the manga if that's relevant. I don't know how it's going to work because some people have asked me. It'll kind of work. I don't know what to compare it to. Essentially, me and Dylan will have like talking points, like things to generate discussion. Like we'll be like, hey, what did everybody think about when this happened? And then everybody can kind of talk and like discuss about it. We'll just kind of have like things to move us along through a discussion. So like that way we can hit like the points that we need to hit in the discussion. But yeah, we're gonna have a ton of people from our I don't want to say our fan base because I don't want to sound like we
that sounds weird.
Yeah, other people in the Evangelion fan base that also happen to watch our things and maybe also like our thing. Yeah, we're just going to talk to them and discuss some of those aspects of the show. And we'll probably also give everybody like a special section. Like, I don't want to make it sound like you can only talk about the things we bring up. Like, we'll give everybody some time. Like, if you come to the show and there's something you want to bring up specifically, you'll definitely get a chance to do that. But we're not just going to start it and be like, "Good luck, everybody, start talking." We'll give you guys some like points to kind of discuss, and like we'll try to hit on the bigger things that I think people usually want to discuss and want to hear discussed about the show. As for when we're going to do that, that's a great question, and I don't have the answer. Anybody that has wanted to be on it has already messaged me, and I have your emails or some other way to contact you if I don't have your email. And just stay tuned, keep checking that stuff regularly, and you'll hear from me soon. And if you follow us on Twitter, we'll probably put a thing on there about it as well. If you don't follow us on Twitter, we're twitter.com/thewetrats. That's also our YouTube if you listen to just on iTunes. And because this will just be posted on YouTube. The series recap will only be posted on YouTube, I believe. We'll see, but I believe. Because it's going to be like 10 people, and from an audio perspective, how are you going to fucking... I don't know. And it's also going to have a video element too. So, I don't know. But anyways, right now, I'm currently working on a massive project for our own personal thing, not related to Evangelion. So that's kind of eating a lot of my time. So I don't know exactly when we're going to do the series recap. It'll be soon. It's not, I don't mean like it's going to be in a year or anything.
Yeah,
it'll be in the next 3 to 4 weeks. So probably in about 2 or 3 weeks, you'll get an email from me if you had asked to be on it, and we'll start discussing a schedule, and then we'll try to get it, sorted on when we can actually do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and also just if you want to just talk about the show or whatever. Otherwise, feel free to email, message us, comment on this stuff, and you don't have to appear on our series recap thing if you don't want to. But don't be afraid to if you want to. Although we've got quite a few now. I don't know if we really have a ton more spots, if any, really. But we've talked before, like we could do more if enough people are interested, and also if people's schedules get all fucked, we might split it into a couple anyways if we can't get everybody on the same day. We'll see. Yeah. So thanks everybody for listening. We fucking did it. We got through the show.
We nailed it.
I wasn't sure if we would ever finish when we started this. We kind of started as like let's just put something out on our channel because we like to experiment and do stuff, and people have really responded well. So thanks so much for everybody listening.
Thanks, you guys. You guys are awesome.
I guess I should say some people might be done now with our thing, and that's totally cool if you want to move on. Again, we do have more stuff planned. We're doing our series recap. We're going to be doing a podcast eventually. It'll be a little while talking about the manga. We're going to get to the rebuilds eventually, but that's probably in the next 3 to 4 months is before you'll see some of that, because we're busy with a bunch of other stuff, and we're going to be even busier this summer. But and we're also going to be doing other Eva videos, kind of little analysis videos, 3 to 5 minutes. We've mentioned this before. Those will be coming out in a while. Again, once I kind of get some more free time for editing, because those are going to be a lot of editing work. So but I understand if you're like, I don't want to wait a few months. I'm going to move on. That's totally cool. And the analysis stuff might not be for you. It might be information you already know, but it'll be coming. So if you want to stay subscribed to our YouTube, if you're not, you can subscribe. We do put out other content. We're getting ready to put out a ton of our own content. So if you don't want to see that, I guess don't subscribe. You can probably all of our stuff will still be posted in the Evangelion subreddit, so you can find it there. I've talked a lot now, so I'm gonna stop. But if you have any other questions, feel free to email, ask, whatever. All that information can be found in our YouTube description, or just comment on a YouTube video. Dylan, any final thoughts now that we are done with Evangelion?
It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think I appreciated the show even more than I ever have.
I agree.
And I already appreciated it quite a bit. So I'm looking forward to doing some more stuff with it and
Me too.
giving the manga another chance and getting more into the rebuilds.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading the manga. I haven't done that at all.
Yeah, I just kind of skimmed through it, so I'm looking forward to like really
get into it.
Actually reading it, because I think a lot of people have wanted us to do that. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. And if you're going to continue to check out our other Ava stuff or our other stuff in general, keep following us on Twitter, keep checking our stuff out, and we'll keep you posted. If you want to move on, then thanks for watching, and
I appreciate it.
Goodbye, and congratulations.
Congratulations.